Hi there, my name is Lars and I'm here with
Alex.
and we are both from Uniform and we are super excited to share more about our visual workspace. So in this webinar, we will cover why we need a visual workspace and we will demo the different capabilities of the visual workspace. So let's dive in and talk about the need of the visual workspace here. So first of all, when we talk about visual workspace, we also talk about how do we enable composable at scale. So let's take a look at a composable commerce setup. In this case, we have different technologies that are essentially powering the composable commerce experience. We have a CMS, we have commerce. Commerce is coming from SAP Commerce Cloud. We have search, we have DAM, digital asset management, that is provided by Cloudinary. And then we're also using AI to help create different copy on the fly. So if we talk about composable commerce, it's easy to agree we need all these different components in the stack. The hard part is really, how do we enable this? So how do we enable this for business users, for merchants, so they can also manage the experience and manage the experience across different channels for your customers? That's why we are super happy to announce the visual workspace. So the visual workspace helps enable digital teams to essentially blend content, data, technology from anywhere to help deliver winning multi-channel shopping experiences. And of course, when we do so, we also focus on amazing performance. And when we talk about performance, then performance has also been moving a lot of different brands to headless over the past 3 to 5 years. So performance was essentially what moved many brands away from monolithic coupled platforms in the beginning to different headless technologies that would allow them to use the latest JavaScript framework to essentially get the performance they need to end up on top pages of Google search and so forth. So performance was one of the drivers to move to headless. And if we look at headless, headless also brought us other great things like better developer experience, best of breed technologies in our stack, but also faster time to market. However, headless also brought a lot of added complexity. And if we look at some of the complexities of headless, especially all those different brands that have been running headless for the past couple of years, then let's start with a tale of a single hero component. So let's say we have a nice hero component that has been designed, looks like this. We have a background image, we have some copy. And in order to connect this nice looking hero to content, we typically start by creating a content model in our CMS. And typically that content model in the CMS represent all the different props we are using in our hero. But then the trouble also begin here. The trouble begin because now a developer goes in and then start coding the connections between the different fields we have in the CMS and the different props we have in our front-end component. So that means that the developer is making the decisions, is making the connection between the CMS and the front-end components here. Let's say that we also want to enable a couple of more variants of this hero. Could be marketing is coming and say, we want to have versions where we have image on the left, image on the right. Now the developer will essentially go in to the headless CMS and then they will look at the content model and then they will sort of MacGyver it. So in this case, we gotta add a new field, and that field will basically help us select what is the display variant of a specific hero. What also happens here is now we are breaking content from being omnichannel, which was one of the big objectives going to headless systems. So we are logging it into a specific channel, in this case, the website. Then we are also adding more complexity because now we need to look at that specific field value, add more code in our front end to essentially determine what variant should be displayed for the user. Then let's say marketing is coming back to us and say, we love this hero. Can we also make it work with our headless commerce system? So instead of just showing content from the CMS, we can also show different product data using the front-end hero component that we have already created. That's not a problem for a developer, but what often happens is that they will copy the code base of the hero to a new code base that is then called Commerce Hero. Then they will repeat all of the above steps and then it's ready for use. But what happens in the background is we have 2 code bases to maintain. So if there's any changes to the hero, we got to do it twice. One for the hero from the CMS, and then once for the commerce hero here. Then we also want to do a little bit more. We just don't want to provide static heroes on our website. We also want to make it more dynamic, personalized, experiments the different hero here. So in that case, we're looking for personalization and experimentation. In order to enable that, we look for a third-party technology. We are implementing the third-party technology that is often done through scripts. So now we are adding in scripts on our website that can also impact performance. And then we are creating new variants that we would like to use for personalization and testing within that third-party tool. And while we're doing that, the authors in the CMS or the merchants in the commerce system should remember that everything they're doing now doesn't have an effect in those systems because it's being overwritten in scripts, and then it's being overwritten by data coming from the experimentation tool. Then when we have run the campaign and we find a winner, then we are copy pasting that into the source system. And then we have to repeat step 2 to 5 for every single new experimentation that we are doing. And the thing is here, these are not even the complicated parts. The complicated parts is that over time, your different technologies in your stack is essentially glued together with your different front-end design system. And over time, this becomes very, very hard to maintain. And the more systems that exist in the stack, the more glue code in between all these different systems until a point where we are unable to move because we have built a new monolith. Instead of composable, we have built a composed solution here. So that is where Gludo, our glue code monster, has taken over your solution. So what we are trying to do with the visual workspace is eliminating Gludo. And instead of having Gludo controlling all of your code and making your solution more composed, we focused on providing visual interfaces so your marketers, your merchants can visually create experiences. They can test and optimize experiences. And you have one tab to manage all the different content and data coming from across your different systems in your digital experience stack. For developers, use any framework you want to use for the job. We are not limiting anything on the developer side. In fact, we are giving developers more time to create because we are eliminating all the glue code, which also means you can get 50% faster time to market. And everything here is delivered from the edge. So the edge is really a way to distribute your experiences, your dynamic personalized experiences, so they can be served close to your visitors, giving them delight in how they experience your website, your app, and giving your best possible performance that will also increase more visitors coming to your app and to your website. The layers of the visual workspace is we connect to the different technologies in your stack. That's the bottom layer. Then we connect to your front-end design system so you can use any modern front-end framework here. You can deliver those experiences from any edge. And in between, we have the visual workspace to manage the experiences, but do so in an intuitive interface where marketers and merchants can go in, insert any components from your design system, connect it to data, and in one click, publish it to the edge and have that live within seconds. That's the visual workspace that we have announced. And we are super happy to show you how the visual workspace functions. So let's dive into a demo. So Alex will show how the visual workspace essentially works in a couple of different use cases here. So Alex, take it away.
Alrighty, thanks, Lars. So in order to get started, let's set some context. What are we building? The best way to learn, experience new technology is to build something together. So at Java Drip, fictitious coffee machine, coffee bean company, we have design team that sent us this beautiful design of the brand new product storytelling experience that we need to build. And we need to build it now, fast and as quickly as possible. So how do we build this web experience? First, we need to start with a solid front-end foundation. And good news is that at Java Drip, the component starter kit that Uniform provides which is open source, is already in place. This component starter kit is built on top of React and Next.js using Tailwind CSS. So it's a very much bulletproof foundation to build any modern web experience. It's highly themable as well, comes with over 50 components. So that's what's powering this, this modern shopping experience that I'm showing right now. If we experience a couple of pieces of content here, go into a beans category page, we can see that the website becomes sensing our interest and personalizing and adjusting to those interests. Because we have identified interest in coffee beans, the whole homepage transformed and it's personalized towards that interest. If I go and reset this profile inside of Uniform Tracker, we're back to default. If I'm gonna go and visit the machines, espresso machines, go back to home, you can see we see in different kind of content. So the solid foundation to build this highly contextualized shopping experience is already there. But we do need to build this product story page, and let's do this together. We're gonna reuse all these components that we already have that coming from a component starter kit, and we can build this visually. And I'm not planning on touching any piece of code here, and we'll do it together without any plumbing whatsoever. So to get started, we're gonna open up our project map that shows our sitemap. And you can see here we have a few pages, we have products, articles, homepage. So if we wanna build this new landing page, we can go ahead and click plus and add new page under home. We're gonna call it Espresso GPT because that's the name of the new product. And for the URL, I'm gonna use this particular product code name, and this will be relevant for us in the future. After that, I can open it in our Visual Workspace and start assembling this web experience visually. You can see that we have a default component, and this is because there is a configuration that gives me this component by default because I have picked page as one of the compositions. Right, so this is a good starting point for me. I can start doing content entry, introducing the smartest espresso machine in the world. Right, and this is, you can see everything is happening visually here, completely in line, and notice that I started without the CMS. So this content is actually stored natively within uniform environment, and this means that I can ship first few versions of my web experience without even connecting to my content sources. I can also start modifying this experience. If I want to connect to content sources, I have video connected through Cloudinary. This is a couple of clicks away from me. So I can browse my whole damn library and pick the video from my background that I'd like. And this component will adjust its behavior and display a video background instead of an image. If I want to configure full height, I have this capability available for me. Again, this is amount of flexibility you can expose to marketers inside of your Visual Workspace environment. You are in full control of how you model it. And you can add as many options as you'd like, or you can model it as restrictive as you need. You make that choice ultimately. Of course, we don't want to ship a page with only a single component. So let me go ahead and insert a new component. In this case, I'm gonna add a component that is already pre-wired, one of the hero components, pre-wired to source content from Contentful. And this is one of the systems I have in my stack that I can repurpose content from. And notice as I'm making selection of my content, I'm actually selecting different types of content called content block. And that is totally fine because the mapping of content from your source into a front-end component is taken care of by Uniform Mesh. And you don't have to do any of that glue code yourself, which is great. So that is a component that you can see comes already pre-wired, have a default display variant selected, but I can override any of these values if I'd like. But I'm happy with this result for now. So let me continue doing more content entry. I can browse these different components, different categories, and I have in the editorial category, I have this content component that I'd like to reuse. And here I can sprinkle in some title and text. You can see this is available for me to do content entry and do this visually, completely in line as well. Great. Happy with the result. I can save it and proceed to probably something that is a little bit more rich, such as perhaps, let's say, a video. So we have a video component. And from here, I need to provide a link to the actual video. I can also leverage Cloudinary integration if I wanted to, but in this case, I'm going with a raw video URL, which is fine. And here, as a marketer, I have more control over behavior of my video component. And this is what developers have pre-configured for me. I don't have to call a developer if I'd like to change behavior of my video player. It's all available for me at my fingertips, and it's just a click away from me. Then any product story page is not complete without some images. So we have a component called gallery, image gallery. So I can insert one. And this gives me ability to select a few assets from Uniform Asset Library. If you don't have digital asset management provisioned installed, it's okay. You can source images from Uniform and continue with the project. And then once you have system where you'd like to store assets and source them from, you can always configure it and use that in addition or instead of Uniform Asset Library. Pretty easy, right? What else can we do? We can adjust the background, some padding, some styling if I wanted to, call it product gallery maybe. But I think I'm pretty happy with the results. Of course, I can also configure some animation settings if I'd like to do that, but that's completely optional. Okay, what else can we do? Well, any product story experience is incomplete without some sort of product recommendations showcased. So good news, I already have product recommendation pattern created and configured, and it's built out of the components from component starter kit from card blocks. So I'm going to select this component, and it's placed on composition together with default content, and I literally don't have to do anything else. I don't have to think where the recommendations are coming from. They're already pre-wired. My team has configured them for me, and I can use it on any composition. All right, so that was easy. How about we gonna insert another component that we already have built out as shared piece of content. So my colleague built this selfie contest pattern that I want to reuse as is. And as you can see, I'm not allowed to make any changes. So this shows how you can build these units of components and store them centrally and reuse them across multiple pages. So it's great for component and content reuse. Finally, we'd like to complete this experience with some reviews. So I already have my reviews component created and is already configured. It's wiring up the content from an external content source with API reviews, where I need to provide product ID, Espresso GPT, and control how many reviews would I want from this service. So I want 3, and you can see the component already knows how to deal with all this content. I can configure look and feel if I would like different background, maybe 3 columns, adding some gaps maybe, and I'm done. That's how easy it is to assemble web experience from modern components, and do this without really calling a developer. The last thing is to publish it. So by hitting publish, what we're going to do is regenerate this page on demand, and this page will go live on our website in a few seconds. I'm going to start up this new session and show it that, in fact, the website has been updated and this page is live. And it took me just a couple of minutes to assemble it and publish it. So that's how fast you can move with Visual Workspace without being dependent on developer and filing tickets in the backlog.
And Alex, so what you have shown here is more Visual Workspace, but connecting into data from different sources. What is super important here is that you have the separation of what is content and data along with the presentation details. So instead of polluting your content model or putting those decisions into any other systems, you can see how Alex were able to basically change the presentation details, change it so it's more height, change the different look and feel of the different component, using different component display variants. So that's super important here. Obviously, what you have shown is more a single page. You're creating, in this case, a landing page for a new product. But one of the hard problems to solve is how do we actually do this when it's more dynamic? So it's blocks, it's articles, it's the product detail page. So we can visually use the Visual Workspace to also manage those more advanced pages. So perhaps you can show that next.
Yeah, absolutely. So of course, we're just getting started with one use case, but what we can do also is connect it to a larger use case of dynamic product detail page management. And you can see here we have an area with all products, and we have one dynamic page called product detail page. If I open it, this particular composition is responsible for the shape of all product detail pages. That's the way it's built here. So it means that you can centrally control the experience portion of your product detail pages, but you don't have to create a composition for every single product detail page. It could be thousands and tens of and hundreds of thousands of them. And you can see here, I have ability to preview this page with a concrete slug, and this will be corresponding to that attribute coming from your product catalog. So I can swap it out to another product, and you can see the structural representation of the page is the same. However, content is completely dynamic. This means that I can make changes once and propagate it across all of my product detail pages if I'd like. I can also modify this and create different product detail pages for different categories if I'd like. And what's cool about it, I can use the page that we just built, which is this ad hoc product storytelling page, and override our standard, fairly boring product detail page with something a lot more interesting. So you can see instead of this page, we can just replace it with a page we just created a minute ago. It's as simple as moving this page into the product section. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this with you. And you can see this operation has this handy suggestion from Uniform that this operation will move and change the URL structure. So Uniform will offer to create a redirect automatically for me, which I'd like. I'd like to keep the short URL and have permanent redirect to my brand new page under /products. And that's how easy it is. I can go and open this up from Canvas and now publish it. And publishing it would override our fairly standard product detail page with this brand new web experience. And in fact, if I launch this and open it up, you'll be able to see that for now it's still old page, but if I refresh, you can see now the hosting environment, which is Vercel, reacted on the publish and updated our page, and we just saw it happening live, which is pretty cool. That's how easy it is to handle things that used to require a trip down to the basement and talking to IT team and create a redirect. Instead of that, redirect is automatically created and running on my CDN of choice without any cost to performance. And this is easy, and this empowers the marketer to do more with less. Finally, you may be wondering where the content is coming from. You have plenty of options with Uniform. You can connect content from external sources and bring that content into components. And with this particular announcement, you have one more way of modeling this content through what we call uniform content model. So in this model, you have ability to define these entities such as products and articles. And if we find our entry for Espresso GPT product, you can see it's actually modeled as an entry inside of Uniform. But it's not just a piece of content stored inside of Uniform. It actually connects to external content sources. You can see it's modeled with standard title, product description, name. There's also a taxonomy group here, and you are able to essentially define that universal content model that I'd like to use and source content from external sources. So in this case, I have both Salesforce B2C commerce product catalog configured as a content source to bring some of this product description, category, taxonomy, and even data for variants. And product recommendations are sourced from Algolia. In this case, you can see they model here in this universal way. And this means that I can add new sources, I can disconnect and connect to new sources without changing the underlying model, which remains stable. I can also augment it with images, and these images could be coming from a DAM, from product catalog, or from local uniform asset library.
That was awesome, Alex. So you talked more about the dynamic pages, the unified content model that we are shipping with uniform content. Initially, I talked a lot about glue code, and we saw how you were using the front-end design system to essentially place different components. Some were pre-built, some were connecting to data coming from different systems. Let's show how you can actually create a new component. So you take a component from your design system, and then you map it to data from a data source without using a single line of code. Can you do that?
Sounds good. Well, of course, it starts with a component, and we already have plenty of components available. One of the components I'm going to use is a hero component. It is already connected and present inside of my uniform project. So having that, the next question, how do you actually bring external content into that component? I have quite a few integrations installed. So one of the integrations I'm going to use is Algolia. And this process is the same across any other integration. So first is create a new data type. And this data type will be corresponding to an underlying integration. You can see I have quite a few installed. So under Algolia, if I want to bring more data from this integration, I need to create a new data type. And here I have a choice between recommendation, dynamic query, single or multi-selection. So for single product selection, I need single record. I'm going to call it single product. And then I pick an index and pick some facets that will allow me to change the way the content selection process is performed. And that's it. So with just a few clicks, now I have ability to connect to external content source and pick any item from that search index, in this case from Algolia. And it's not just connecting and picking content. We actually have edge infrastructure performing fetching of content and caching of content. So your APIs become faster. And if you have a slow API that you want to connect, this edge infrastructure will take care of it and accelerate it, which is a fantastic addition. So that's kind of step number one, creating this data type and establishing how you'd like to select and what kind of content you'd like to select. Second step is to connect it into a component. So I'm going to go to component library and pick the component I'd like to make this connection with. And we do this via patterns. A component can have any number of patterns. I'm going to create a new pattern. And this pattern will be called product hero, because that's the type of data I would like to display. Product hero goes here. And then for the title, I can simply click connect and start inserting dynamic tokens. And from here, I'll pick content source. So this is my single product data type that I have just created. And from here, I need a sample record to pick from. So for example, let's say this machine. This really doesn't matter. This is just for wiring needs. I'm gonna pick the actual name of my coffee machine from the content source, and you can see it's visually updated here. So this preview is really handy. It gives me a sneak peek into how this component is actually going to display all this data I'm connecting into it. I can also change display variant to image left, for example, and then bring the image from my content source. So I have one of the images I'd like to select, this one, for example, and pretty happy about it. I can also add a call to action if I'd like to link this to a product detail page. Learn more will be the text of the button. And for the link, I'm actually gonna point it to my dynamic product page. And from here, I'm gonna connect it to my dynamic slug that is stored inside of Algolia as well. So you can see it's displayed here, and that's it. I have my button. I can configure display properties, but that is good enough for me to go ahead and save and publish. And after I'm doing that, this particular pattern is ready to be placed on the composition. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm gonna go back to my product detail page that I have moved, and now it's overriding my standard one, and go somewhere maybe to the bottom and add our product hero. This is our brand new product here, and you can see it's already wired up to Algolia. And all I need to do is pick the actual product that I'd like to display. So Espresso GPT is the one that I need. I'm not going to click save. And that's it. Because the pattern is already pre-configured with all of the connections, I don't have to worry about anything else. And you can see that everything is marked as logged down, as read-only, because I did not allow override. I can change that if I'd like to, and I'm going to allow all of the overrides here. And now we have a lot more flexibility with that pattern, and I can do other interesting things that will become handy in what we're about to show you next. What do you think, Lars?
That's super cool. So in a few clicks, you have essentially bound data from technology, in this case Algolia, to a component, and then a user can visually use that to place it on a page, on an app, and then publish it. So, but we have a couple of more things to come here. So what I want to dive back into is a little bit more on how we can optimize the experience here. But first, I also want to give a big shout out to the launch partners we have as part of launching the Visual Workspace here. So huge thanks to all our launch partners. If you have any questions about Uniform, our Visual Workspace, feel free to reach out to any of these partners here. Or if you want to learn more, have a demo of our Visual Workspace, you can always reach out to Uniform as well. But thanks so much to all our partners for being part of this big launch we have here. So what I want to cover a little bit more before Alex dives deeper is essentially the role of content. So if we look at going from more a content-centric mindset to a more composable experience-first mindset, then if we look back to how we started with content management systems, everything was very coupled. CMS was at the center of the experience. So that means you have front end, your design, tightly coupled to content coming from those CMSs. If we need to have a couple of different systems to provide commerce, to provide assets, then we essentially manage them from within the CMS. So that meant that a user in the CMS could pull some products from commerce or pull different assets from our digital asset management. The way we did it was that in the background, there was integration, there was code that essentially provided that functionality into the CMS. If we look at headless CMS, so headless CMS is without the presentation. Everything is headless. That means you have access to data through an API. But essentially, we are repeating the same patterns. If we want to have commerce, if we want to have assets for a digital asset management system, we essentially also end up making integrations and doing code from our different integration applications, SDKs from within the CMS to the different systems that we want to pull from. However, if we look at composable, being true composable means that you can pull data, content from any system, and you should treat it as being decoupled, because anything that is more coupled will lock you in and you will need more glue code, and essentially you end up with something that is more composed than composable. So you want to have something that is more different blocks that can easily move and be assembled by a visual workspace. So composable first means that treat content data from the different systems as different blocks that can be assembled. If we look at the role of content anno 2023, the role of content has also changed a lot. So for instance, different categories of content can be stable content, something that is more long format. You use a lot of time on creating a big article, blog post, product description, etc. And typical, that doesn't change a lot over time. Then you have something that is more volatile. Volatile content can be call to action, heroes, campaign related content that often change and is more volatile. You have something that is more focused on the presentation, the look and feel of how you present that content or data for the user across the different channels. And then we have a new category that is more the generative content. So something that is created using AI. And if we look at examples of content across these different categories, then in the more stable content category could be articles, legal content, news, blogs about us, volatile, heroes, call to actions, list headers on a product list, promotions, landing pages. If we look at presentation, could be more, how does this module look? What are the properties? Is there animation in this module? What is the background? Do we want to have an overlay to make the text more crisp? Could also be animation, top nav, footer, what goes in the sitemap. For generative content, a new category, it could be using that to generate call to action based on some of the long format content we have. Could be generative images for different call to actions, or test out different images and also use it for personalization, or even use generative to create content for new channels based on content that exists. So for instance, taking an article and then break it into smaller new fields that can be used for different channels. So it also unlocks how we can think more omni-channel when we create different experiences here. And of course, it can also be used for translation. So different categories of how content can basically be thought about. If we look at the role of the CMS, stable content is where you need a CMS. This is what you need the CMS for. If we look at the role of the visual workspace, this is where you need the visual workspace for. You need it for something that is more volatile, as Alex demonstrated, something that helps you create the experience and manage the presentation, and then help connect into all the different AI services that can help you do more advanced things in a couple of clicks and basically get something pushed out. And if we look at the role of generative content, that could be used to enhance copy, create new copy, personalization, images, and also turn more existing descriptions into omni-channel content. And this is where we are super excited to also, as part of our launch and as part of Visual Workspace, to incorporate AI into Uniform. We do so by thinking about how we plug in different AI services as part of an AI hub. So in this case, I can use any AI services. It's not a black box. In this case, I'm using OpenAI, Writer, and OctoML for different services that I want to leverage inside of Uniform. For all these different services, I can control the different prompts. So each service is good at different things. So I can enable different prompts from these different services, and then I can enable that in context of the user in our visual workspace. So whenever they work with content and experience, they have access to those prompts that makes most sense to optimize their work stream. And Alex, if you want to demo a little bit about how we incorporate AI into Uniform as part of the visual workspace.
So going back to our project, first things first, we have enabled a couple of new integrations in AI category. As Lars mentioned, we have 3 that are enabled for this demo, but you could bring your own, and you can use our Mesh SDK to create your own integrations quite easily. So let's put all of these integrations to work and all those different models and prompts that come together with it. So I'm going to open up the page that we were working on before, and I'm going to pretend I'm a 10x marketer, and I'm going to do something that used to require teams and a lot more time. One of the things I can do is personalize my components and bring content from generative AI in context of the audiences I'm targeting this personalization to. So for this particular hero, why don't I go ahead and click personalize this? I'm gonna see the effect of that is creation of new personalization container. If I'd like to reuse exactly the same component, I can duplicate it. And from here, I can target it to be shown only for high income buyers. This audience detection can work with any CDP. If you plug in something like Twilio segment, this context will be picked up from there. And now that we have configured the audience, wouldn't it be nice to have content to be automatically generated based on that audience? So one of the prompts I have access to that works through OpenAI is personalized content for audience. And because of that configuration awareness, this prompt knows that I'm targeting high-income buyers, and I can generate content in context with that particular audience. And you can see this gives me content that I kind of like. And if I'd like to do any further adjustments, I can, let's say, link to another video from Cloudinary. And that is how easy it is to generate all the content you need for your personalization program. So you have no more excuses. Personalization runs at the edge as quickly as possible. It scales. Now you can solve the last part of the personalization problem is content availability. Finally, I'm gonna call this analytics event home hero, so it can be easily identified in analytics, and publish. And I just, in a few clicks, just published my first personalization powered by generative AI. But I can do more than that. Of course, the use cases, sky's the limit, right? So one of the use cases, if I'd like to process the content I'm sourcing maybe from my old product catalog that has maybe too much content that doesn't really work for my front-end component, not a problem. Let's try to make this text shorter, and I can rely on OpenAI to give me this better version of content. I can also go and revisit my remember the hero that we have added. So we can also make this content better. Let's say if we want different content, different sort of description that's generated based on the article that my colleague wrote, for example, I can also go ahead and do that, and now use Writer instead of OpenAI. And you can see I don't even have to think about which model do I use, how do I configure it. Everything is configured, the prompts are here, and the experience is truly uniform. So now I'm overriding the content that used to come from Algolia in this case, and I can chain prompts. So if I'd like to have a shorter text on top of content that was generated by Writer, I can do that as well. So that's cool, but I think we can do something that's possibly even cooler. Why don't we get maybe a little bit more exciting image generated for us? So if I'd like to maybe change the display for this component, and instead of image on the left, maybe I want a background image. And in this case, it's maybe hard to use the image that I had before, so we need a new one. Why don't we ask generative AI for that? So what I'm gonna do here is go into my image parameter, and I'm gonna click this magic wand button, and you can see the number of options are different because depending on the parameter type, if that's not a textual parameter, of course, it doesn't make sense to use those prompts that we used before. So instead of that, we're using a custom deployed stable diffusion model on Octo AI Cloud. And that means that you can bring all of the services that you'd like that are compatible with your enterprise use cases and policies, and it's completely open. So in this case, we're gonna generate a photorealistic photo of futuristic espresso machine, and I'm gonna ask for yellow color. In this case, we may wanna try a couple of more images. This one looks okay. Maybe we can do better than that. Let's try another one. I kind of like this better. So I'm going to accept it, and you can see it is a square image, and this doesn't really work well for me. And that's another power of combining multiple generative AI services. Another capability we have enabled here is powered by Cloudinary Generative Fill. So using this AI technology, we can ask for a different aspect ratio of the image. So if we select one that is wider image, this way Cloudinary will regenerate an image for me, and you can see we have a brand new image for some reason with a car added to it. I didn't ask for it, but I got it. So you can see here we have a power of combining all these multiple services, but you are still at the driver's seat as a marketer, right? We turning you into a productive marketer and giving you access to all this powerful technology, but you're still the governing body here, and ultimately you're the one that click and save and publish. That's how easy it is to bring 3 different generative AI technologies that powering very different use cases, but within the context of one web page, which is pretty exciting.
That is super cool, and perhaps because you see the car here is that it's the Lamborghini espresso machine that you have generated here. Well, it's time for us to wrap up. Thank you so much for watching here. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. And thanks so much for watching. Have a great day. Cheers.